The next element of the tutorial that we're going to see is now going to be the pathophysiology. Now, for the pathophysiology, you need to understand that what in the pathophysiology of malnutrition pathophysiology is just going to be dependent on macronutrient deficiency and micronutrient deficiency. We have already spoken about all the complications that are under micronutrients on the mechanism of malnutrition. Now, for macronutrient deficiency, we have pathogenesis associated with energy loss and we have pathogenesis associated with protein loss. Is it clear? And this pathogenesis is going to be mostly seen when you have a problem called severe acute malnutrition. Is it clear? So this is the major one that has the complications. All of them can have the complication, but the macronutrient disorders are mostly going to be visualized in a patient that has what? Severe acute malnutrition. So when you have found the parameters of the severity, you have found the parameters of the acuteness, and you have found the parameters of the undernutrition or the malnutrition, you say that the patient is having severe acute malnutrition. It's the one that is going to present with the pathophysiology of a problem with energy and protein. So this is why a patient that has severe acute malnutrition is having the highest mortality rate, and thus they are always admitted. They have the highest mortality rate, and thus they are always admitted. Is it clear? So in severe acute malnutrition, what are the problems that can be located at that level? One, you need to know that in severe acute malnutrition, they don't have energy. Is it clear? So because of low level of this energy, they lack energy. So you have lack energy, so they are less active. In bracket, they are less active. They are not active. They are just there. They are not active. So is it clear? The second element, since they lack energy, they will not have appetite. Is it clear? There is loss of appetite in these children. So this is another characteristic in severe acute malnutrition. There is loss of appetite in these children. Is it clear? The third characteristic of these children is that since they don't have energy, they don't even have energy to smile. Their face looks apathic. Apathy face. It means that they are emotionless. Is it clear? Emotionless children. So they don't have even energy to smile. Is it clear? Now the fourth element is for the proteins. Is it clear? So that is the first element was for the energy. For the energy, they lack energy, so they have loss of appetite, and then they lack energy for appetite. That's loss of appetite, and they lack energy for smiling. They have apathic faces. Now for the low level of protein, since they have low level of protein, what happens is that the body is going to retain fluids. Is it clear? You're going to have fluid retention because of low level of protein. Since they lack proteins, you are going to have retention of fluids as one element. And also, you need to know that what since there is low level of protein, the body is going to instead store the salts. The salt is not going to be released. In order to, since there is low oncotic pressure of blood, the body is going to store the salt such that the oncotic pressure should be maintained constant. Is it clear? So there is also salt retention. Is it clear? So those are the 5 major problems that you have in severe acute malnutrition. Is it clear? Those are the 5 major problems that you have in severe acute malnutrition. Is it clear? That's why patients with severe acute malnutrition can easily die, and they need to always be admitted and managed in the ward. Is it clear? Now, after visualizing all that in severe acute malnutrition, we need to know the other complications that occur in all patients with malnutrition. Other complications. Is it clear? So the first other complication that we have in patients with malnutrition, we have hypothermia. Is it clear? Those are, we are going to divide them into early and late complication. Is it clear? We have hypothermia. The next complication, we have hypoglycemia. Is it clear? We first have hypothermia. The next complication, you have hypoglycemia. The third complication after hypoglycemia, you have dehydration. Is it clear? We have dehydration. The food complication that we have after that, we are going to have the next element or under the food complication after dehydration. We are going to have mineral deficiency. Mineral deficiency is it clear? Or electrolyte imbalance. Mineral deficiency or electrolyte imbalance. So generally these patients have low level of, or they have low level of sodium potassium chloride, but if they have low level of sodium potassium and chloride only when they have what, they have chronic malnutrition. In acute malnutrition, we initially said that these children, in severe acute malnutrition, said that these children are instead going to retain the salts. Is it clear? So they are not going to have excessive level of sodium, potassium, and calcium or chloride. Is it clear? Because in this case of severe acute malnutrition, are going to retain insect salt. But instead in chronic malnutrition, you're instead going to have the mineral deficiency or electrolyte deficiency associated with hyponatremia, hypokalemia, hypocalcemia, or even hypochloridemia. The fifth element, we have also vitamin deficiency. Is it clear? We're going to have vitamin deficiency as another complication of malnutrition. The next element, since there is vitamin deficiency, there is infection. Those patients that are at risk of infections. Is it clear? And they are also at the risk of having anemia. Is it clear? They are at the risk of infection, having anemia like the pernicious anemia as we have already explained. And they are also at the risk of having thrombocytopenia. Is it clear? Thrombocytopenia, as we explained when we had scurvy. Is it clear? And they were also at the risk of having bleeding disorders associated with coagulation disorders, as we have already explained with vitamin K deficiency. Is it clear? And all those other deficiencies you're going to have also. So the next other complication, that group of complication that this patient are going to have, the other group of complication that malnutrition patient are going to have, is that they have low level of energy. Is it clear? So they have low energy. Is it clear? And that low energy now is what can, that's why we need to give supplementation of certain products. And the last one is low level of protein. Is it clear? Low level of protein, that's why we're going to supplement again them with other products. And then the last one is that these children are apathic. Is it clear? They have low level of social contact. They have low level of social contact. That's why among the management, we are going to do something for the low level of social contact. Is it clear? And then the last one is to make them change and become like other children. After making them to have the high level of social contact, is to make them change and become like other children in the management, to become like other children in the management. Is it clear? So those are the different things that you have to do. Is it clear? For the management of a child, for the complication and then the management of a child that is malnourished. Is it clear? Those are the 10 steps which are on the WHO management protocol, as I'm going to explain in the management. Is it clear? So for this is the pathophysiology of malnutrition. After this, we're going to visualize now the clinical presentation of patients with malnutrition.